What's going on, everyone? We just wanted to take a second to thank you for all your support so far. It means the world to us. Also wanted to give a special shout out to our partner and friends at Mahon River Farm. They are your local source of pasture-raised poultry. Make sure to give my buddies Alex and Tom a call and arrange a time to check out their farm and pick up some meat for the freezer. No steroids, no hormones, just all natural chickens. Give them a follow on Facebook and tell them we sent you. Next shout out goes to the Hometown Advantage podcast. They're a big supporter of this show. They're your local sports podcast here in Cecil and Hartford County, shining light on all the youth athletics and high school athletics in this area. So make sure you give them a follow on Spotify, like them, rate them, download them. Also hit them on YouTube and give them a like and a subscribe over there and help those guys grow. Thanks for tuning in to the Upper Bay Podcast. All right, we're rolling. It's the Upper Bay Podcast. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Do all the things, like, rate, subscribe, download. Let's grow that YouTube channel a little bit because that's how we're going to make money. If we ever do make money, I don't know.
Maybe.
Hopefully. We got hats ordered. They just sent me an email the other day. Production has started, so hopefully by the end of June we'll have those and available for sale. I know handful of people have already reached out wanting to buy a couple, so they're going to go fast, I'm pretty sure. But so today we got another bass fishing episode. Got a long-term friend. We fished clubs together and pretty good stick on the bay, Mr. Dave Ruark. What's going on, buddy?
Hey. Just counting down my days. I'm a teacher, so I'm 12 days from enjoying summertime.
You are close. This neighbor right here is a teacher as well, and she's like, God, just a couple more days.
It's a struggle right now. It's hard to motivate the unmotivated right now.
Right. I remember, seniors, man, they're just probably like zombies in there.
Teachers are not much better right now. I think we're all ready. The seniors used to only end like a few days earlier than the underclassmen, right. But now they have like 2 weeks earlier now. So it's like, now what? The seniors are gone, and
right.
We're all ready to be done too.
Right. And what do you teach again?
I'm health and PE teacher.
Health and PE, that's right, because Dom is too.
Indeed.
Yeah. Because we're going to try hopefully get you on that podcast too, talking about, teaching and coaching softball, because you're not doing that anymore, right?
I took a step back this year. My son's at the elementary school, and he's out of district, so I got to provide transportation to and from school. So he gets picked up at 3:30 every day. So gotcha. I couldn't really do a paid gig, and so I would just volunteer, and I put in a half an hour
gotcha.
Here and there. But teaching's my passion, whether it's PE, health, softball, golf, fishing, love it.
Perryville have a golf team? They have to have a golf team, right? You should coach that. That's got to be easy.
Well, I coached that for 10 years, but now I'm just volunteering now. Same deal. There'll come a time where I'll be able to help out again when my son's in high school and he's able to drive, but I've been driving my kids for the last 15 years, so
it's got to feel
good.
The end
of that road is coming, though.
It's got to feel good getting one out of the house, though, because your daughter's in college now. That's got to be stressful, but a relief at the same time, I'm sure.
Yeah, honestly, it is it's I think more of a relief,
right?
Because she's 18, she's doing her thing, having fun with friends, and when she's away, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. I don't see where she is at night, but she comes home and she's social. Yeah. She's out and about doing her thing, having fun, being young.
Yeah, that's awesome. So she's cheerleading for them, right?
For her. Yeah, she's cheerleader at Frostburg.
Nice.
So.
I'm assuming that they do tournaments, I guess, for that, or is it she just like a cheerleader for the football team?
Yeah, they went from football to basketball to competition, so she did all the way up to May. Yeah,
nice.
So
good for her, man.
She's enjoying that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yes, you've obviously have gotten to fish a lot more, because when we were fishing in the club together, I remember like the club tournaments was like all you had time to do, and that was once a month.
Yeah, I've been fishing a little bit more. So we went from being the president of Castaway, and I decided to kind of just take honestly, I just took a step back from a lot of responsibility in the past year. A lot of those guys that we fish with, they're younger guys just getting married, just having kids, or now their kids are growing up and they're coaching their kids, and it was just a tough timing, to kind of keep it going. So I jumped in with a PA club, and I'm enjoying that. They're running opens and being the Bass Federation affiliated. We got district tournaments to add to our club tournament. So it's been a lot of fun to start off.
Yeah, it's good. Man, Casting Away was a lot of fun, though. That club, I mean, so how long did you run that club for? Because when I joined, I fished for 3 or 4 years, and then you continued for, I think, 2 more years before the club finally
jumped in. Stopped. 2005 is when I first became a member, and then I think maybe 5 years after that I ran it for a few years, and you just get burned out running things, and then we kind of take turns amongst the club being a president, and they would get tired out of that, they'd get worn out of it, and I'm like, I can jump back in. But I think it was a good 8 or 9 year run to kind of end the year, or to end out the Casting Away. But it was a blast.
Yeah, I felt for you, though, a lot of the times. Like, I'm so glad that nobody ever asked me to run it, because, like, just those days, like, you set the schedule in the beginning of the year, and then, of course, like clockwork, right time of year, and you guys are fishing the Wingo, but the bay's heating up or whatever, and everybody's like, why don't we switch, or blah, 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 this and that. I'm like, man, I couldn't do it. I couldn't deal with all that.
It's tough because the bay is going to consistently put out the most amount of weight all year long. So it's like, why aren't we fishing the bay? Right. And then you got like half the club wants diversity and fish new places, and half the club wants to just catch the biggest fish possible. Right. So I get why people are torn, but
it's just hard. Like it's a lot of personalities to deal with, and it is hard to get everybody on the same page, But again, it's like why you vote for it in the beginning of the year. It's why you make those schedules. And it's like, it is what it is.
I think we had the club set up the right way. It was just kind of a reference-based club. Like you'd bring in a friend, and you just had a lot of common personalities. Young people, competitive, love to fish, and at the end of the day, we were all friends, and why we would be at each other's throats from time to time. Every now and then you'd have a spat, but at the end of the day, just a bunch of buddies going out fishing just for the competition, not for money.
Right.
And
that's what I loved about it. It's just like, what I loved is because when I was a co-angler, like the way we had it set up is you fished with a different boater pretty much every tournament, which was great. You got to meet a lot of different people. You got to learn a lot of different bodies of water. You got to learn different fishing techniques and all that. It was a really cool setup, and man, there were some sticks in that club. There was a lot of good fishermen in that club.
For sure. And that's where I'm at with Elite Force Bassmaster, being the new guy, being a co-angler. It's awesome because I'm literally getting to meet, all these new boaters. I'm going boat to boat every tournament. We just had a trip to Candlewood where we spent a lot of time off the water together. Nice. I know we did our Oneida trips. I don't know if you were there for Oneida. I think you may have just been freshly removed.
Yeah, I never went up there with you guys.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I think Alex went up with you guys. I think he fished for another year after I left.
Yeah.
So, but pretty much like that all the main group of us, we all did that New York trip, just for fun. It wasn't a part of the club, but it was basically all the club guys fishing out there,
Absolutely.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
nothing like a good travel derby.
Right. So how did you kind of go back to the beginning? How did you get into bass fishing? Like, where did it all start?
Honestly, raised in Newark. My dad, I'm the youngest of 4, so my dad would just take us down to Rittenhouse Park, which is right in Newark, just a little tiny creek, and we'd all just get a stick, tie on a monofilament, put a hook in corn, and
catch some bluegills.
Yeah, exactly, catching bluegills. And I would just, as the youngest one, I think the youngest of the family end up being like just a little scrappier and competitive. You're the baby, and so my mom would make a big deal out of like fisherman of the day. We'd be like, "You're the fisherman of the day. You caught the most fish," and I was just always been like competitive. I'd be crying and upset, and And yeah, we just catching little bluegills, and then my dad ended up getting a canoe a few years down the. I guess I probably fishing on water by the time I was like 8, and it's always been pretty bass specific. And then he got a smoker's craft, a V bottom 14-footer, and we started taking that out at Knoxontown Pond, and we'd go down to the beach, Millsboro, Ingram's, Trap, fish those places, and then we discovered Port Deposit, down by the rocks on the upper bay. So, and that was my first experience catching smallmouth, and that's kind of where I think I was about 17 or 18 at the time, where that was my first exposure to upper bay.
Nice.
So it just kind of evolved, and the competitive side had always been there.
Right.
And as my athletic years worn down, there was always that competition, whether it was, golf or tennis or bowling, and then fishing came along, and then I had kids, and then it's like, you go from having all these hobbies that, all right, we're going to have to funnel these down. And eventually it just became fishing. So that became my lone competitive venture.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And you are one of the best fishermen that I have ever had the pleasure of fishing with. I've fished in your boat before, and I fished against you, and it doesn't matter where we go, it always seems like you're catching them, just because you just understand everything that there is to understand about a bass, and how they move, and how they eat, and how they think, and it's really incredible, man.
I appreciate that, but no, I've been humbled. You see these guys on the upper bay, like literally do it every weekend. I'm not that consistent yet, but
I mean, we've talked about it before, though. But like, to be that consistent, you have to fish out there every day. You have to follow those fish around the flats. Yeah, I mean, that's just the only way. And it's like, who the heck has time for that? Especially people like us who've kids and jobs and whatever else. It's like
summer vacation's coming though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. So
I just need a gas sponsor, and oil, and ramp.
It would be nice
if I could do that on someone else's dollar. I might get a little more consistent.
Well, we had. Do you know Matt Russell at all?
The name sounds familiar.
So he was a local guy from Northeast, I believe, but he lives in Oxford now. But he's kind of fishing the MLF Toyota or the Phoenix series or whatever as like the opens, and he had struggled last year, and this year he's doing all right. He's like, now he's collecting like sponsors and stuff like that to pay for gas and all that. But that's what you need to do. Yeah, you just need to go all in, man.
Yeah, I'm not going all in. I'm too old for that. I'm just going to keep it to the clubs. And right now with the Bass Federation, doing the district tournaments is fun. And know, if I can qualify to fish some bigger stuff, awesome.
Right.
But I'm not at the point in my life where I'm just gonna invest with the kids.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough.
The whole priorities thing, adulting fully.
It sucks, man.
Now, if I was like this guy,
I just have to say, I tell him all the time. I'm like, God, you don't know how good you have it, dude. I miss those days.
For now,
that's it. Single, just young, working, work hard, play hard, man.
Fish as much as I can.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you fish all the time. I mean, that's like you did, like I did, and I mean, I started bass fishing pretty much. I mean, I fished as a kid, but like really seriously bass fishing. I mean, I started in college, and shit, we fished Alex and I fished every day. It's easy then. Yeah, but and it's funny, like you say, like your like the sports side of things starts to dwindle down. You get a little older, things get harder, or whatever. You don't make it to the next level, whatever it may be. It's like, you see a lot in bass fishing. A lot of those people came from sports, their whole life. Like that competitiveness just continues to follow you through. And it's like, it's funny that bass fishing is competitive. It's just like people go out just to relax and catch fish, right? But it's like, man, but I want to catch bigger fish than you do. You know what I mean?
People don't really get it though. They're like, you compete for bass. Everyone thinks it's like luck, like you're just like throwing a bait out there and waiting. But yeah, no, it loans itself perfectly to the competitive individual.
Yeah,
like you talk about tournament anglers and just that rush they get a blast off every day, and that's just a true competitor. With you got and you feel like anyone has a shot any given day when you blast off. It is probably not very true.
I mean, we say it all the time. Like, there's days where you struggle in the bay, right? Like, and I can remember vividly many tournaments where Alex and I are struggling, and we're looking at each other going, maybe everybody's struggling. Not
somebody's
always got a 20-pound bag, man. Always. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. That place just dishes out every freaking weekend.
A lot of the consistent guys they'll network a little bit.
Right.
They'll work with other boaters and share information, and they just get dialed into the tides.
Right
where they know where they want to be on most tides.
Yeah.
So they're just running around spot to spot a lot of times, and you share enough information with the right kind of people, and you just keep learning, and you just get it dialed in.
No, that was one cool thing that we did in the club that I really liked is, like, at the end of tournaments, like, we gave everybody the opportunity, like, look, if you want to share, like, how you caught them, what the conditions were, like the tides and all that, like, go ahead and share, and pretty much, I think for the most part, everybody always shared, so it was cool for people like myself who didn't have a lot of experience. It was cool to, like, use that information to kind of put the pieces together as time went on. Like, the bay really well. Like, you've been fishing it for years, and I'm assuming most of your knowledge just comes from trial and error out there.
A lot of it, but I think most people, they get shown by certain people, and like, I got shown the Northeast River. I probably fished the Northeast River like 20 times before I even ventured out. And what's the Susquehanna Flats all about?
Right.
And then I had somebody show me the flats, and then you just get confident with certain areas, and you fish those areas, and then you venture out and you fish your own stuff, and you get your own waypoints, and you just end up having a lot of history to bounce around. And
it's just like what's amazing is, like, you understand how much the tide plays into effect. Like, my first year in the club, when we fished the bay, I had never even bass fished a tidal water. I fished all those ponds and lakes in Delaware, so that was a huge learning curve, and, like, understanding. It's still to this day, I'm still understanding how much the tide plays into effect with when they want to eat, when they don't want to eat, what you need to be throwing, etc. It's like, I don't know, it's crazy to me that how well you understand all that.
I feel like I do sometimes, and sometimes I don't.
I mean, the perfect example is what we talked about before the show is that day, we all called him, and you were like, I bet you called him between this time, and you were spot on. It's just like, I just don't understand how you know it so well. It's crazy.
Yeah, because we started out on a low tide that day, and I didn't realize we were going to have flood tide conditions ahead of us. And luckily, I had a boater who was pretty willing to let me, kind of call some of the shots. And I'm like, we're starting on a low tide. These fish are pre-spawn, spawn, maybe a little bit post-spawn. And we got out to a pretty fast start. And everywhere we went, we caught fish. But just when I thought I had the tide all played perfectly, I'm like, all right, we're going to hit this back channel grass. And I get there, and I'm like, whoa, there's like a foot more than there usually is. What is going on? Did I get my tide wrong? And they were still eating, but those fish had moved way up into the back channel area where there's usually, on low tide, only like a foot and a half of water. So that flood tide just pushed them way up on the shallow stuff. And if they're eating normally like in 2.5 to 3 feet of water, and you're catching them on a chatterbait, they're condensed in there where that bait's right on their head, and there's that feeding window. But they didn't want to be in those areas because now there was 4 feet of water. So you just kind of kept moving up to where it was shallower, and we found a decent population of fish, and most of those fish had kind of moved up. We didn't really mess with the main flat that day, but when you fished enough, and you'll come across those blowout tides, you'll come across those flood tides.
Right.
And when you're not used to fishing tidal fisheries, you're completely, you feel like you're lost.
Right.
But you get enough of those days, and you share enough information, and you learn from other people, you start figuring out how to adjust to those ever-changing conditions.
Right. Yeah. That day there was a flood tide, and when we launched, I think the water was like way up in Anchor's parking lot, like way high. And we were both kind of like, oh shit, should we even go? It's like, because like exactly what you're saying, like I like to fish in 4 feet of grass, 3.5, 4 feet of grass. But now we're talking 5 feet. It's like, oof, you can't even see the grass, and it was real dirty and stuff. But thankfully, we stumbled into a few. But the other day we fished, and it was still like that whole week, it was like flood tides pretty much.
It's that full moon.
That's it.
Yeah, and we fished a dock that's no secret to anybody, but I'm like, we'll catch them out on the front, out on the face of it. Shit, we didn't catch any out there. We had to go you go way in to try and catch them in spots where there's normally only inches of water, but now there was 2 feet of water. So, I don't know. It's just like, it's crazy that you have to adjust that much at all times. Like it's never, I don't want to say it's never a consistent, because there is always consistent patterns, but it's like crazy when you're fishing such a big body of tidal water, how like every day you have to kind of leave an open space for change, like you have to be willing to roll with the punches at all times.
Yeah, because after that flood tide, you guys got out there, and where there's a high, that tide probably just started sucking out pretty hard, which probably created a lot of really good current.
Right.
And once that water came down, those fish probably just got in predictable areas, and
Yep.
you guys had a time. I'm looking at these fish. I'm like, did these guys literally fish after all these boats struggled? Like my club, I mean, most of them came in with 2 or 3 fish.
Oh, really?
There was very few limits, and I was looking at the other clubs that had weighed in, and it seemed like they may have done a little bit better than us, but there were not a lot of big bags. And I was seeing your pictures, and I'm like, dag, this literally happened after we pounded on them all day. And there was some club tournaments in Havre de Grace, so there was a decent amount of boats out there.
Yeah, there was 2 tournaments at Anchor. There was your tournament and some other tournament, and then there was a tournament or 2 out of Havre de Grace, because all that went through both of our minds. Like, man, high tide, there was all this pressure out here. I'm like, we'll be lucky if we catch 1 fish, bro. It's probably been hammered all day. And then we went out and we had a good day, But it's exactly what you said, though. Like, we caught that tide rolling back out, and once it started going, like, it went fast. And we were in another spot that, again, is no secret, but in there it was pulling out so fast that, like, anywhere you could get up behind the current a little bit, it just, like, as soon as you pitched it in there, bam, every time.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys were on that outgoing tide. That's probably my preferred tide.
Yeah,
outgoing over incoming.
I love that outgoing. It doesn't matter where I am. That's always seems to be the best, because I love to flip, and so I'll go wherever that water's sucked out, where I know they're going to be associated, on obvious structure or whatever. Like, I'm going flipping all day, baby.
You want to stay in that Northeast River then? If you like flipping all the wood for days,
dude. Like, you think that, but every time he's like, "You want to fish Northeast?" I'm like, God, no.
Really?
I will.
He hates it.
I will.
Flipping paradise.
Exactly.
I know. I guess like I've spent so much time flipping all those marinas and stuff. Like, at this point, I just want to try and find other places. And that day specifically, we flipped grass out in the flats, and we caught them. I mean, nothing crazy, but we were catching them, and that's fun to me. I'll flip grass all day.
Yeah, when that tide gets low enough, and now the milfoil or eelgrass is kind of almost topped out, where it becomes really difficult to throw a chatterbait or a swim jig or swimming worm or something moving.
Right.
It can be a blast to flip that. So low tide, I like to go slower.
Right.
And top water can be amazing. Low tide, that's going to pick up really soon. I'd say in the next. They're definitely getting bit on top now, but in the next 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to get really good.
Yeah. He caught a couple the other day on a frog, and then when Alex went out, I was like, yeah, Mason said he got a couple bites on frog, and he's like, already? I'm like, yeah, that's what he said.
I've been waiting. I've been throwing it every time out.
What tide did you get them on?
Incoming, and it was flood. Like, it was high.
You got them top water or high?
I was shocked. I wasn't throwing a frog hardly at all. My co-angler was, and he was catching them. But we just ran out to a community hole, and like as soon as we dropped the trolling motor, we watched a guy catch one on a frog. So, we're not putting the frog down.
But sometimes it doesn't even matter what tide it is. They'll get dialed into that top water, and it's on. That could be so much fun.
There's I don't know, ribbit frogs or whatever, the paddle tail frogs.
Top toad.
Top
toad, love them.
Oh my god, dude!
Best
They
bait on the flats.
munch on those things out there, and that is the funnest bite.
Just give me black.
Yeah.
Give me black, and I'll just throw that thing.
Yeah,
You always hear black on like cloudy days
Right.
or wind, and then white on sun. I just throw black. Legit.
Yeah, dude.
I'm loyal to it.
Alex is all the same way. He'll throw black, doesn't matter what it is, and that boy loves a frog. And he's got a whole box. He likes the juniors, the little tiny ones, you know. And it's always black. And man, he just racks them on frogs. He can catch them on frogs no matter where it is. That's what we call them on a silver.
Yeah, I feel like with that top toad in black particularly, you got a moving bait that's causing a lot of commotion. It doesn't really let them get a good look at it, and they just got to make up their mind whether they got to eat. So they can't really tell what it is. They just see that silhouette and they either react or they let it go. So when that frog bite is on, now things will kind of switch over in the middle of July where you start like almost going. You can get them moving, but some days they don't want that fast bite, and you'll get them on like a popping frog or one that has like a V nose, and but when it starts really matting up and you start getting those real cheesy looking grass areas, they can be a lot of fun.
Right. And they, like we've said it before, but they are angry at frogs out there, dude. Like some places they just suck it in, you know, just a quick pop, but out there it's like a great white going for a seal, man. I don't get why they're so angry at it. They're angry fish, man.
That grass is a drug, man. Like once you learn to fish that grass, and you could be struggling and you will just refuse to leave. It's just so much fun. Because you get that top water bite. I mean, are you going to run into the Susquehanna or the Northeast and really get that same top water bite? I think most people, if you can ask them like, hey, how do you want to catch fish today? And be like, can we catch them top water? They're going to eat top. Well, let's do that. So
but like when that time comes and it is so matted, it's like if you don't catch them on top water, it's miserable trying to fish that grass. You know what I mean? Like when that grass is thick in like July and August, it is brutal to pull a chatterbait through that shit, dude.
Get them edges.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
I guess that time of year they're going deeper anyway, so you kind of want to fish the edges all into the deep stuff.
Some of them, I think, correlate to them edges. I think other ones go up as shallow as they can into that grass.
yeah, it's all about the ditches.
Yeah. And they're easy to see that time of year.
Right.
Real easy to see.
Yeah, I mean, I've been out there in August, and you see the wolf packs of them, you know, in some holes. And on like you hadn't any rain in a while, and the flats is real clear. You know, you can, when you're trolling motoring around, you can see, you know, little wolf packs of them pass you, or, you know,
They won't bite when you see them.
No, they won't.
Damn sure.
No, they do not. I've tried. They do not.
A flipping guy like yourself, just throw on a 1 ouncer and punch it in there.
I've done it. What we talk about it too is like people throw Senkos out there. I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do, bro. Let's throw a Senko on the flats on the spinning rod.
Gotta do it sometimes.
Listen, there's some things I'll do when I'm fishing. That ain't one of them. Just like a drop shot. Like, I cannot
You're
bring
missing
myself
out.
to tie that thing on either. God.
That used to be my confidence bait. Like literally, like, you know, when Casting Away started, it was all ponds.
Right.
And every now and then we would fish like a big body of water, like the Conowingo or the Upper Bay, but it was like 7 ponds, 2 big bodies of water, and everyone threw the Senko around, and you just had to finesse them.
Right.
And just wacky rig for days. So I got a ton of confidence throwing that, but I've become very spoiled with the power fishing that the bay has, because when the tide is right, you know, those fish are just going to eat a lot of times, and you can sometimes catch them the way you want to. But have that Senko on if you're frog fishing. You better have that thing tied up, because if you miss a blow up and you throw immediately over with that Senko and it's hooked up, they are going to eat that thing. I'd say 50% of the time you're gonna catch that fish.
Right.
If you've got it literally hanging off your boat, ready to be thrown at a moment's notice.
Are you fishing that weightless?
Weightless and Texas.
Texas, right?
A lot of times.
It's just like,
I did fish with Pete Gluzik probably like 6 years ago. My wife hooked me up with a guided trip for Christmas, and I'm like, heck yeah. And I don't know if you've heard of the Dean's rig.
no.
Yeah.
But the Dean's rig, he fishes at Texas, weedless, but he puts the nail weight in the tail.
Okay.
So it kind of glides down a little bit.
Right.
And I've done really well. Like, I won't have that as my follow-up bait, but I'll have that as just a tactic to get down into the grass.
Right.
And I'm usually fishing it on spinning, but I'll go kind of heavy with like a 12-pound leader.
That's my fear with the spinning is I don't trust my my uni knot, my braid de fluoro knot. Like, I'm not sure how well that's gonna hold up. That fish takes me back in the grass. You know what I mean? Because that shit's thick.
Yeah.
I think the reel is gonna, having your tension and your drag set is probably more. Well, the knot's really important,
Obviously,
but if your knots have been holding up and you got confidence in it, you're not going to lose them too much on the knot.
Yeah.
You're going to lose it because you had that drag wench down too much and you're in 10 pounds of grass with your 3-pounder and it breaks off. I'm like, I just lost the fish of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it's 10 pounds, man. I swear to God. I saw it for a minute. The other thing that's funny is like, the first time I ever fished him, he's like, he's like, I had to go back to the house to get the net. I'm like, get the net? I'm like, bro, Alex and I have been fishing together for like 10 years. Never once has there been a net in that boat. You fish with a net?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't want my heart broken.
Exactly.
Like, more times than not, you're going to lose a fish right at the boat.
Yeah.
When it would be in the net.
Right. I mean, knock on wood. We haven't had that problem yet. Me and Alex are expert belly scoopers. Just go all in.
Alex never has a net.
Never.
Alex, what are you doing, bro?
I swear to God, dude. We fished Ike. We fished Chester counties. We've done all the club stuff. Never.
There's
never
no
once.
way I'd fish a big tournament without a net.
Nope. Never once.
No.
I mean, I don't know, man. When you flip a lot, like you tend to always have them pinned, like pinned good. Same with a chatterbait. You always tend to have them pinned good. The only time it gets a little sketch is you throwing a crankbait, something with trebles. They can shake those pretty easily.
I'd be nervous.
But I don't know. I've boat flipped a lot of 4 and 5 pounders.
You've probably lost a lot of 4 and 5 pounders.
Not at the boat. I'm telling you, dude.
Well, without a net, you're probably a lot more likely to take that risk and boat flip them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, my 7-pounder, Alex Belly scooped it for me. I just never have a net.
I'd been real nervous. I wouldn't trust anybody.
Nah, I trust him, man. I mean, we got a lot of confidence in each other.
It's pretty satisfying landing a fish by hand, though, too.
Yeah.
Like, I do a ton of canoe fishing, and, I'd never taken that out in the canoe. And that's where I generally catch my biggest fish, get into those honey holes, and, I never take a net. So that part's kind of satisfying.
Yeah.
But when you're catching, like, a lot of, like you said, treble hooks, like lipless crankbait, that's one thing I love to do. Poppers, that's where the belly land comes in play.
Right. You don't have to, we won't say names, but has your one spot been pretty good this year so far?
Nah, not really.
No?
It's been better in the colder months.
Right.
Because it gets choked out a little bit.
Right.
And,
I imagine it's pretty full right now with grass.
Oh, yeah. You literally have to go and flip that whole place. You can top water or flipping. Take your pick.
What's the water level in there like? I went there once. Is it high?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went there once last year and it was a little low. It dried up a little bit.
I love it when it's low and there's not a lot of grass in there.
Right.
Because then they just get offshore, and I don't like beating the bank anymore.
Right. I don't blame you. Everybody else does it.
It's just weird because never fished looking down at forward facing sonar, and I like to fish offshore stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's why you got to get it for your boat, man. Tell your wife for Christmas. Listen, we need a full setup.
I know. I'm always 1 to 2 waves of technology behind everyone. I still haven't gotten 360, so I'm like, I could see this grass great on the side imaging, and
Right.
A lot of it's just blind casting, and that's what's setting me probably from catching 15 to 17 consistently, and fishing catching 18 to 22 consistently.
Right.
Is really being able to locate those points of the grass that you're going to see on 360.
Yeah.
And when you're fishing ditches, I'm sure those guys are really putting forward facing to work when you're fishing those deeper grass edges, and they could probably see that a little bit better.
It's just like what point is it not fishing anymore? You know, I'm sure you've had this talk with many people, and we've talked about it once on here before. But it's like, I get it. You know, you have to roll with technology. It's only getting better and stuff. But it's like, at what point does it just take away from learning? Because now all you got to go do is just go to a spot and turn your TV on and see if they're out there, and if they're not, you just pick up and roll to another spot. You know.
I just feel like the learning is different now. Whereas before that, you're really learning on, you know, fishing your instincts and really seeing the water and then putting it together with what you're seeing on, you know, your mapping or 360, or before 360 you're seeing, you know, looking out at side imaging. Now you're learning a lot about fish behavior. People are learning a way more, and they're fishing a population of fish that people didn't fish before.
Right.
So those fish are no longer safe, and they're generally unmolested. And if you figure out what they're going to eat and you stumble on them, you can get right quick. So I don't hate the forward facing that much, but with that being said, like I said, I'm always two levels of technology behind, which is why I love, you know, the Delaware Bass Club. You know, you going out there just fishing on the pond. I'm sure if you had it dialed in, like probably in the pre-spawn and the fall, the forward facing would play. But this time of the year, I think it's on a pond. It's mostly just fishing instincts. What a lot of people like us, you know, grew up, you know, doing. So I feel like it's an even playing field.
Right. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, like, besides the ditches, I feel like out on the bay, like, it's really not going to help you that much, you know. I mean, I don't know. I've never fished with it, so I don't know, but I can't imagine when it's all choked out, like, you're not going to be able to see shit, you know?
Well, we'll never know, because people aren't going to come in after catching 24 pounds and be like, yeah, man, I was looking at them all day.
And I'll never own it, so I don't know. I can't afford it.
Oh, no doubt.
I don't know how anybody affords all that stuff, man. Good Lord. It's crazy. I mean, okay, boats, $100,000 now. You know, if you have a top of the line trolling motor with, you know, two 12-inchers at the front and two 12-inchers at the back, plus your live scope and stuff, plus your poles and your lithium batteries, goddamn $200,000 in debt before it's all said and done, man. Yeah. I can buy a house for that.
Not my problem. But winning tournaments is probably not going to be my problem either.
Right.
I'm just out there to compete. If I can get a check, I'm happy with that.
Man, I was hoping I'd cash a check at Silver. God, that would have been just a nice little pocket change to take home. It was tough, dude. It was tough that day.
It was. Yeah, Griffin and I, we wrecked them early. We got on them right away. They were catching top water, flipping, a little bit of moving stuff, and I'm like, it was just fire right out of the gate. And then we just, as soon as that rain came in, they stopped biting for us.
Right.
And it sounded like there was like a lot of different experiences that people had on that particular day, because we just struggled pretty much from 10 o'clock on, whereas some people finished really strong. And I was telling Griffin, I'm like, if we had like score tracker updates, I'm pretty sure we were probably leading through the first 90 minutes. But then
pause for a sec. All right, there we go. It's working now. Sorry about that. We had to pause for a minute. My little dude broke in. But so you were saying that you and Griff, you got on him early, but once that rain hit, you started to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, and Griffin's got really good instincts, and we were talking during the break, and you know, you were talking about how you're fishing blind with a lot of times no electronics at all, and I'm saying, hey, Griffin won our club last year, and he'll flip on his electronics to check out a water temperature, and then he'll ditch it. Right. He's got really good instincts, and you know, he kind of did what a lot of people would be unwilling to do, which was, you know, we've been catching them, and he's like, you know what, we need to call out these fish. We need to go for a bigger bite, and we were just not getting big fish at all. Right. So he just blindly fishing offshore, slow dragging, hitting jigs, and we got less bites, but he did lose one that would have really helped us. Right. It was a 4-pounder on a day where I don't know if a single 4-pounder was caught.
Nah, biggest fish was 310, I think.
So that would have definitely been the lunker. But he's got good like winning instincts.
Yeah.
Knowing when to like just go for it. I mean, like we've all been there to where we're just catching fish, having a blast, and you can keep doing the same thing, but you're going to be calling ounces, and at the end of the day, you're going to be like, man, I just needed to go for that bigger bite, or need to go for that jig, or sometimes I needed to slow way down. Yeah. And he had really good instincts. It just didn't pan out.
Yeah. It was tough, and we were in the same exact boat all day. Well, not all day, but in the beginning, we struggled. We couldn't get a bite to save our lives in any of our spots. As soon as that rain started, the frog bite went nuts for us, and we just were hammering fish after fish on that frog, but we couldn't get anything over 2.5. We had 5 fish, all 2.5 pounds. Literally, we called like 10 times, I think, and we called for ounces every time.
Yeah.
You know, it was brutal. And all day we were like, man, we just need that 4-pounder, just one 4-pounder. And so, like, as soon as the rain stopped, the frog bite stopped, and we did the same thing. We kind of backed off and we were flipping out a little deeper, you know, trying to pick up a big fish, and we just never could.
I think those big fish must have been recovering from the spawn.
Right.
Just immediate post-spawn funk. They're just probably laying on the bottom somewhere next to a piece of wood, just not willing to eat at all. Yeah. And that's exactly how Griffin was able to get that one bite. He just felt offshore wood and set the hook, and just it's where the speed of your reel better be fast.
Right.
Because he all I see is this line wiggling back, and he never really felt the weight of the fish until that fish jumped, and you know,
can't catch up to him, man. It's a heartbreaker.
I think the G-Man's going to be getting some 8.5 to 1 ratios for the next tournament.
That's what I need, man. I flip on I flip on like 7-1s and stuff, but there's one rod I had tied up one day. Him and I went, and it was like a 5 to 1 or something like that, and I flipped. And I could not catch up to it. And it was like this. It was only about this big. But I was like, holy shit, that's the fastest fish I ever caught.
You had no shot. Yeah. 7-1. If you're fishing 7-1 flipping, you are risking it. Yeah. You better have mad speed. Yeah. Even
Listen,
then.
Man,
especially
as fish I buy all my shit off Facebook for dirt cheap, man.
I'm telling you, man, I'm loving Facebook Messenger.
Oh, yeah?
There's not Messenger, Marketplace. Yeah.
You guys find good deals on rods and reels?
Oh, yeah,
really?
Dude.
Great deals.
Yeah.
I need to start looking better or something.
Yeah, I'm due to buy some new stuff, but like the first year in the club, or maybe the second year in the club, I went all out and I bought all my stuff off Facebook Marketplace. Yeah. I own one new reel, and I think it's because my dad got it for me for my birthday one year. Yeah.
Tackle Warehouse Junkie.
20% off right now.
Yeah.
Is it really? That's Memorial Day?
Noon tomorrow.
Damn. I bought $120 worth of shit for Chester County, and I didn't even fish it.
That's how it works, though.
Wednesday nighters.
I'm coming for them. You gonna fish Wednesday nighters? You should.
I would love to. As soon as I get my boat up and running, I should be a couple weeks away. And now my boy's going in the 6th grade, so he's kind of old enough to hang back on his own for little chunks, and that's in the evening anyway. So my wife will be coming in. What are they, like $50?
60.
60.
Does it start this week?
Yeah,
starts tomorrow.
It's like trying to decide if I should fish it. I got some work to do.
Yeah, I'm not available tomorrow, but I can get it ready in a couple of weeks, and then you'll be out there with us and just get your butt spanked.
Yeah, I need to get out.
It's the same 2 guys that win it every week.
I'll guarantee you one of them's Rich, isn't it?
Or they got fish in a box. So probably not.
Nah, Rich doesn't. He guides out there. He's out there every day.
Yeah.
That's all you can
do. That's the way to do it.
Good for him.
Right. I mean, I got nothing against him, and I've said it a million times. Like, I have nothing against him because he's making money, he's doing what he loves and all that. It's just like, man, it sucks for the guys that are weekend warriors, because you put what little time you have out there, and then you go fish these bigger tournaments, and then you just get continuously spanked by him every weekend.
Yeah. Definitely got to earn it.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to be given to you. If you win it against those guys that have been fishing the bay for years and years every weekend, like, that's a feat. Yeah. You got to feel real good about that. Even, when you place or get a check.
Right.
Did a lot right.
What happened to all those guys that were always the big sticks out there? Wasn't it De Palma, right?
Greg De Palma?
Yeah, he was a stick out there for a long time, right?
Elites. little busy
that's
fishing
right.
those $100,000 tournaments.
That's right. I forgot he was out there. But there was who else? Like when you were out there heavy, like way before me. Who were the big guns?
Get like John Venor did really well.
Yeah.
Mike Centaur. He's still doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see a lot of the same guys are still out there, and they'll still be consistent. They'll catch like good bags, but I feel like the Bass U guys,
right? That
like I said, like they probably network a little bit.
Oh, sure.
And you're not catching 19 pounds. I mean, you're probably not going home with money.
Right.
And I think this past weekend, I think Glusek was just under 20 pounds, and he was the first out of the money. Yeah. So the bay's on fire right now.
Right.
Yeah. And then after those big tournaments, people going out the next day, like Alex and his buddy going out the next day. We had some guys fun fishing, catching boatloads of fish still.
Right.
You would think they'd get beat on and pulled out off that flat and wade in the Northeast. It's going to be slow after a 100-boat tournament.
What do you think that is? We've tried to figure it out before, but like that place continuously takes a beating every weekend, but it continuously produces. Like, do you think that these fish are migratory? Like, or do you think... All right, sorry, we had pause again. My son is really trying to get in here to get me. But anyway, do you think they're migratory, like continuously moving in and moving out? Or do you think that there's just that many fish on the flats and they're just kind of associating themselves with different areas of the flat at all times, which is leading to some fish not getting caught and not getting lure shy and all that?
I think both, actually. Both. Yeah, there's such a huge population of fish out there, and the food chain, just from little bait fish to yellow perch, white perch.
Right.
It's just a constant food chain out there, and I think, there's some fish that just want to be in the grass, and that's where they live, and they find their way back out. So migratory wise, they start getting in that flat. Some of them even winter out there.
Right.
And then you just start bringing all these fish from the Susquehanna and the Northeast and the elk. It's almost like they could smell that grass.
Right.
Or they get in the channels, they just follow bait fish, and a lot of them end up back out there. But there's such a huge population. It is miles and miles of fishable water that a lot of those fish don't see a lure.
Right. It's just like it blows my mind if if there really are fish out there that have never seen a lure, because it's literally every weekend 80 to 100 boats every Saturday. From 80 to 100 boats out of Anchor, 80 to 100 boats out of Havre de Grace, all on the same day. It's like,
and then you got Jersey guys at Rogues, which are all going to the flats.
Yeah, last not Chester County weekend, but the weekend before, there was 2 big tournaments out of Anchor, and then it was the Susquehanna Tackle was out of Anchor, so that was huge. Slam. And then the same day there was a 60-boat tournament out of Rogues from Jersey. It's like, good Lord, man. It's like, I just don't understand how this place can
beat up.
Yeah, but it'll produce. It obviously did. It produced 20 pounds. Chester County, multiple 20-pound bags.
Yep. When you look out there on the flats, and it's not like there's 10 boats here, 5 boats here, boat, 10 boats here. It's like, it almost seems like 80% of the boats out there are fishing like a pretty small condensed area.
Right.
100%.
So there's plenty of fish out there that are not getting targeted.
Right.
And it just seems like a lot of the people who aren't getting dotted in, like we talked about it, when your confidence is low and you're like, man, let's jump in a community hole, see if we can catch one or two. And I think there's just a lot of guys that are doing that.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious to see those guys that are fishing really consistently, how quickly they would pull the trigger and get out of there once it starts getting crowded.
I've also wondered that. I don't know.
I don't think they do.
I don't know. I bet they do.
They probably got a lot of waypoints dropped out there.
Right. I mean, Zach is a perfect example. When he was hammering out there and he was fishing every day, he was a stick out there, and that's what he would do. As soon as somebody rolled up on him, he would just pull up and move to a different waypoint, and he could always catch them. I wonder if he'll ever come back. He was a lot of fun to fish with.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a young guy, so he's doing the dirt bike thing now.
Right.
So that takes a toll on your body. So, and he's one of those competitive guys.
Yeah.
So he loves to compete. So I'm sure when his body gets roughed up again, and there'll be a time where he comes back to fishing, I'm sure.
He was like the one guy that I was like always rooting for, because I knew that he could go out on Cecil County and put some of those guys that always win. He could push them out of the top, and he could take over. And he won several tournaments. Did. Yeah, he dedicated a lot of time to it. He's like he's one of those typical hobby guys. Like once they get into something, they're all in, full invested.
Boys and their toys.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, and do you think like out there that the fish are always in just a weird state of pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn, like at all times?
What, like all times of the year?
Not necessarily all times of the year, because like obviously like July, August, September, and all that, like in the fall, like they're not, right? They're sitting a little deeper in those hotter months, and then when it's the fall, it's a slower bite and stuff. But like April, May, most of June, and early July, I always feel like it's not like, okay, April, May, they're spawning, or April, they're pre-spawn, May, they're spawn, June, July, they're post-spawn. I feel like at any time in those 3 months, you could catch anything. You could catch pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think they go in a couple waves, and those fish that are out in the grass, they're probably a lot of them are just a wave in front or a wave behind.
Right.
I think once we get in like early May, you've got a little bit of everything going on.
Right.
Pre, post, and spawn. And once they kind of vacate beds, I'm sure a lot of fish move in and use those beds. And no, right now I'd say they're probably 90% post right now.
Okay.
But I think they go in waves, usually around the moons, the new moon and the full moon. And honestly, even years where you would be like, man, the water temperature is only 58. They're not ready yet.
Right.
But we had like a cold winter and a cooler, wet spring, and there's a lot of variables that go into it. That length of day is a major one. Mm-hmm. So the days are long, and they know that, even if the temperature is not right. And then you mix in the right moon, and you assume that there's no way that these fish are spawning, and some of them are already been there and done that.
Right.
So I think they definitely go in waves.
Right.
But I've heard of people saying that, most of those fish on the flat are post-spawn. Some of the fish closer to the channel, they're more pre-spawn. And I've just, I'm teaching and coaching, and I've never really been able to fish it, every single week where I can really get a sense of confidence. Like, I know what they're doing.
Right.
I've never experienced that enough yet. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, me neither. I just this time of year, you're always catching fish in what seems like different stages. Like obviously the big fish have chewed up tails, from being on the beds, and then one day him and I were catching a bunch of small fish, but they were fat, like fat, like they're obviously eating, getting ready for all that. And there's days where you're catching little males as they're pushing it off the bed and, running it off the bed and stuff. It's like, I just like Chester County, for example, the day he went out there, like maybe it was tough because the fish that he was around were more post-spawn, and some of these guys that are winning, the fish that they were around were more pre-spawn. So they were willing to eat a little bit more. You know what I mean? I honestly have no idea if that plays any factor. It's just like, that's what goes through my head. So, I don't know.
Wish we all knew.
Right. It'd make it a lot easier. I know that. Yeah. But, well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. We're about an hour in. So that's like the sweet money spot for listeners. I know we talked about it a little bit, and him and I have talked about it too, but like, that like all the analytics show that people only hold on for about an hour, no matter how long you do it or how short you do it. Like hours, the sweet spot. But so yeah, well, it was really good having you on, bud. You're a wealth of knowledge. Like again, loved fishing with you. Loved fishing in the club. You ran a hell of a club. You ran a good program. I'm glad to see that you found home somewhere else and that you're still able to fish, because I know it's what you love to do. So again, thanks, buddy.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, man. Yep. Really good having you.
Nice meeting you.
Mason, you got anything else to add?
I don't think so. Hope we just keep wearing on them.
Yeah.
All summer.
If anybody's listening to this, Mason needs a partner for Wednesday nighters.
Co-angler special right here.
Right. Me too, buddy.
I live 7 minutes from Anchor. I'll jump on with you.
There you go.
$30.
That's a good partner, dude. I'm telling you.
I'll give you some gas money too. Gas and grant. I'm telling you, I'm loving the co-angling life.
Oh, it's fun, isn't it?
Just jump on, go fishing.
Just mark some waypoints. Everybody.
This could get a little
Let me get my
off
phone
topic,
out here. Let me get my app.
Right.
This is a good spot.
Right. This could get off topic just real quick, but as fun as co-angler life is, it is hard being a co-angler, like fishing wise. And you told me that when I was a co-angler, it is way different fishing off the back of the boat than it is fishing off the front.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of opinions, you better eat a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're in someone else's world.
Yeah.
So as long as there's a lot of boaters that would, if they're struggling or they're less experienced, they'll ask for advice.
Right.
But for the most part, that is the beauty of winning and doing well from the boater standpoint is you're making those decisions.
Right.
I've had some success from now boating and co-angling. It's definitely more satisfying when you're the boater making the decisions,
Right.
putting
When
in the
you put it
pre-fish and putting in that effort. It just makes co-angling you just reading the conditions and see what your boater's doing, and you got to kind of diversify a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless they're really dialed in, you could be doing the same thing. But yeah.
Man, that's why I like being a co-angler on friends' boats, because I'll just tell Alex straight up, this ain't it, buddy. Let's move.
Put the frog down, Alex.
This ain't it, bud. We're going to get out of here. But, well, cool. Again, this Everyday Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, do all the things. Later.